Kelly, all set? Chair Siddiqui, before we begin, can I ask you to move up A and B and under new business? I'm sorry, A and C under new business up after the principal's report or after the superintendent's report?
Sure.
Just because we have people in the audience. Thank you.
I may need a reminder. Good evening, everyone. With the time being 6 p.m. on Tuesday, June 7th, 2022, I will call this meeting of the Webster School Committee to order and ask that we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just a reminder, this meeting is being recorded, both video and audio. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the May 17th, 2022 meeting minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve them.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Lori, would you please poll the committee?
Yes.
Yes.
Abstain. Yeah.
Yes, motion passes. And the next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Good evening, Dr. Gogan.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see everyone, and it's nice to see a full house in here tonight. I would just like to ask that we start our meeting today with a brief moment of silence out of respect for the Uvalde, Texas community. Please join me in a moment of silence. Our deepest condolences and prayers go out to the families of the 19 students and 2 teachers that were killed and to the 17 people who were seriously injured. This type of tragedy seriously makes all of us pause to reflect upon gun laws, mental health issues, and taking action when we see warning signs. I would like to let you know that we have provided our families with tips from the National Association of School Psychologists. Our DLT has met on the reactions of students and staff, and we are trying to provide supports to families on this very, very sensitive matter. And I think we'd be remiss as educators and people if we did not recognize that this is all of our responsibility, an entire community responsibility to pick up warning signs and take this seriously. Thank you for that. Moving on to happier things, much happier things, we have some retirees with us tonight that I would like to pay tribute to. We have 6 people retiring this year. Marianne Honig, our business manager over at Bartlett. Gina O'Haron, she's a paraprofessional over at Webster Middle School, an ABA paraprofessional. Linda Boyso, a paraprofessional over at Webster Middle School. Kathleen Flibbert, a paraprofessional at Park Ave. Mrs. Robin Parmley and Mr. Fran Thomas, both principals in our district. I would just like to say a few words about the people that are here, and I have a very small token of appreciation for your hard work and dedication. Is Mrs. Ho? Okay, we'll do her last. Gina O'Halloran has worked for this district since 2004. She was hired as an instructional assistant during her employment at Webster Public Schools. She's been a para, an ABA, and a teaching associate. She's worked in the after-school programs, extended day programs, and summer school programs, and has impacted hundreds of children's lives in a positive way. On behalf of the district, I am happy for you and your family that you are starting a new journey, and as a small token of appreciation, we have something that will keep you smiling all summer long. Please don't leave. You're very welcome. We're going to take a group picture. Robin Parmley, Mrs. Parmley, has surprised us all with a most recent announcement that she will be leaving. I don't think there are enough words to say about the love that you share with your students and staff. I think the most positive thing that you've brought to our district is that love and changing the code of conduct over at the Park Ave Elementary School. You will be sorely missed and hard to replace, Robin. You became an administrator here in 2014, coming from a very small district to a very large school. And we've had a lot of interesting times together, and I know that you will be entering your retirement feeling very good about your work here. And again, a very small token of our appreciation for you and your family, and best wishes to you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Thomas, we received your retirement notification yesterday, and you've been with us for a number of years, and I want to thank you on behalf of the high school for your dedication and hard work. And we have a very small token of summer fun for you as well. I heard that these grow up into trellises, so they might be a good deck thing. Congratulations. And Mrs. Honig is not here, so we'll save her for later. And I will go on with my report and revert back to her. I do want to give the committee an update on our new Bartlett High School principal. A press release was sent out to the community on May 25th. Mr. Ryan Collins will be starting on July 1st. I would like to thank the preliminary screening committee, and in particular Dr. Patty Mackay for leading that committee. Also thank Gina Nieves, Heidi Peterson, Melissa Arsenault, Ben Jenis, Peter Carney, Colleen Nassis, Liz Smara, and Jessica Guerrero for their time and efforts in this process. We look forward to welcoming Mr. Collins to our Webster School community family. With the recent notice of Mrs. Parmley's leaving and the quick turnaround of trying to get a new principal, I have been in contact with NESDEC. They did a full-blown nationwide search for our Bartlett High School principal search. They're not going to do that, but they are going to do the outreach piece because we have been a client of theirs. They are doing that at a 20% discount, and that will give us a much wider pool to select from. So I will keep you posted on that process. I hate to begin the Bartlett High School renovation presentation, so I'm going to move down my list and jump around a little bit. For personnel updates, we have hired Lindsay Morello as a paraprofessional at Park Ave, Lisa Dobb as a school year administrative assistant in special education at the central office, and Kelsey Sanders as our new food service director. Renewals have been given to Miss Ann Thompson, the dean at Park Avenue Elementary School, Melissa Bergeron, the dean at Webster Middle School, Judy Brahms, the assistant principal at Webster Middle School, Jenna Guin at the adult ed director, who is here tonight, and Ava Landry, the adult education director of curriculum and instruction. And while we're waiting for Mrs. Honig, I would like to ask both Jenna and Ava to come and give us a quick update on the adult education summer programming. If someone would be, anyone over there, be so kind to give their 2 seats up for just a short second.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So this year was quite an interesting year. This is our first year we and I working together, and essentially came over-enrolled very quickly. Programming, course offerings, and so with that being said, it was a little bit of a slow start to the year. So Dr. Gogan and I chatting, we identified that we had quite a few students who were ready to start taking the GED, but they needed just a little bit more time. So in collaboration with Dr. Gogan at her request, you have to start your mic. Oh, it's not on. There you go.
Just kidding.
Start all over. So at the request of Dr. Gogan and in collaboration with her, Ava and I put our heads together to come up with a short 1-month GED summer boot camp, which we are offering to current students that are enrolled in our program. And I would say about 50% of them are actually former Bartlett High School students who were not successful. So those students are underway with testing. And as you know, for the GED, there are 4 subtests that you have to take, so it's not just a one and done. The high set, there are 5. So our students often have barriers to getting from one test to the next. So this summer boot camp is essentially designed to walk them through the process, provide intensive advising services where they can then, once they achieve that GED high set, move forward to their next steps, be it getting a job or enrolling in college, hopefully for the fall semester. Ava can talk to you a little bit more about the curriculum and exactly how we're going to do that.
Hi, Ava.
All right. I will say, I'm a little nervous.
Don't be.
So in terms of curriculum, it's going to be just highly individualized. We have so many mixed ability students, and a lot of them are in different places in their GED/high set trajectory. So we're going to have a math class, we're going to have an ELA class, but we're also going to be utilizing, can you hear the difference? Is it my mask?
I can hear you.
Hello? Okay.
It's not that kind of microphone
Okay.
because it's being filmed, so it's not.
So we'll be utilizing a software called Essential Education, which is a really powerful software because it gives them diagnostic tests, and then it's computer adaptive. So it means that they'll be answering questions, it'll identify learning gaps, and it'll give them assignments based off of their learning gaps. And so me as the assistant director of curriculum instruction, and then the teachers, we're really going to be combing through the data to see, all right, where is the student? Like, how can we target our instruction in order to get them to the next step? So if there's any specific questions about curriculum, I can answer that, but that's kind of like the gist.
I think one thing that I just want to make sure that the school committee knows is that adult education programs usually run 9 months out of the year, and having a summer program is something that we're doing here, which is not common. So I think it's a wonderful way to reach and re-reach some of the students that we had lost and engage our adult learners throughout the school year. So we're hoping that this pilot of this year comes again and is very successful.
And that is our intention. Our opening competitive grant will come out this month sometime. And so we are actively planning for fiscal year '24 and beyond, which will include full summer programming and an extended school year. In years past, the summer programming was non-existent, and the traditional school year averaged about 30 weeks. So we're looking to greatly extend that because there are so many learning gaps that do occur during those summer months and lack of engagement. It's really hard to re-engage the students come fall. So the fall, you start off at a much slower pace, and it's not until winter where students are really digging in, so they've already lost a few months. So hence, now we're shifting and we're going to offer programming in July to hopefully get them over those academic humps so they can complete their testing. So, any questions?
We're all excited about this.
Thank you.
This is a very exciting opportunity to re-engage students and really, like you identified, remedy those learning loss periods during the summer. So thank you for thinking creatively and addressing that need. Appreciate your update.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
I'm sorry, I guess I do have one question. How do students enroll?
So we actually operate on a rolling enrollment. So at any point in time, a student can call into our office and they can go through our intake and our orientation process. And depending, for the adult basic education student, that process is anywhere between 2 and 3 days. So it consists of gathering demographic information and doing placement testing to kind of gather an academic starting point for that student. We also talk about goal setting, next steps planning, because once you walk in the door, we have to start planning for when you walk out that door, and we have to have a plan in place. So at any point in time through the school year, we have staff that work tirelessly during the day to get students onboarded, enrolled, and then plugged into class.
In years past, it was a very managed process where they could only come at certain points during the year, which works nicely because it allows you the opportunity to build a wait list, but you lose students on that wait list. If they're waiting for a month or two, they lose interest, they find another program, or life gets in the way. So we've discovered that as soon as they call, you need to work very hard to get them into the program, identify their barriers to participation, and then help them overcome them so they can be successful.
Thank you.
I'd like to add in something very high beat. We just had a student come in and they passed their high set and then they are planning to apply for the Future Focus program out of QCC. So that is a win. Yay.
Good job.
That is actually our first college enrollment in as many years as I've been here, which I've been here for the last 4. So we're very excited about that.
Congratulations.
Excellent.
Good work. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
So, Dr. Mackay and Mrs. Barris, do you want to give us a quick update on summer programming? And I'm sorry, if you don't want to wait, Gina, for Marianne, maybe we could just do a quick picture. I don't want to hold them up. Yeah, let's just do a quick picture. And let's do a quick picture with Robin and Gina and Fran. Go ahead. So, because I know people's time's valuable.
Yep.
Right here. Right here. Okay? No tears. Okay.
Happy word, right? Yeah. So, smile. Very nice.
You're on candid camera. Have a good night and congratulations. Best to you.
Camera worthy.
All right. Thank you. I felt bad. having them with-
Congratulations.
Congratulations and good luck. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to start with something that I'm very excited about, which is something new that we're doing this year. We're starting for the first time a Jump into Kindergarten program.
Okay.
Do you want me to stop? Okay. And so what we're offering this year is we thought, we have a summer program already. We already have the space. We have a program happening that's pretty robust at Park Ave. And we do, the story hour in the spring, and then we have them come in for like get to know you, the screening. And we would love to have opportunities for our students and families to come more frequently in the summertime. And so I was speaking to a couple of the counselors at Park Ave, and they offered up these 3-week, so families can sign up for 1 week at a time, so Monday through Thursday, 4 days for 2.5 hours to have their children come in and get ready for kindergarten. So they'll practice going to the cafeteria, they'll practice sitting on the rug and moving from their tables to the rug and using the bathroom and closing the door and knocking and all of those great things that kids have to learn in kindergarten. And so we had the story hour last week at Park Ave, and we already had 21 people that were interested. And so more information is going to be coming from the counselors to the families. And we're also going to try to find different ways to market it so that more people have access to that information. So that's exciting because that's something new and just branching out. We have a lot of different things planned for summer this year. At Park Avenue, we continue with our 21st Century Grant and program, and that will run Monday through Thursday from 8:30 to 1, July 5th through August 4th. We invited about 180 students so far, and we have a really good turnout for staff, and so we're really excited about what we're able to offer. One of the project-based learning opportunities we're offering is novel engineering. So our focus is literacy because 21st Century we have to choose a focus, and our focus is literacy. And novel engineering turns a STEM activity through literacy. So kids love it. The teacher is very excited to teach it. We're going to do academic support, physical activity, and project-based learning. So including that novel engineering and gardening, we're going to have the new director of the community garden. Am I saying that? Peter Germano is going to be working with the staff at Park Ave in the summer, and they've already started doing some nice work. And so to continue that as a project, they're going to do a butterfly project and releasing the butterflies, since they don't do that in STEM anymore. And so, so that's exciting for the Park Ave piece. We tried to, again, thinking about engaging students and how we're going to get kids excited about being in school. And so at middle school, we're also doing something different, and we decided to have week-long camps. Many students might come for a week, perhaps not for the entire summer, as well as staff who might be willing to work for a week and not 5. And so we're off to a really good start with our topics. And our topics at middle school include intramural sports. And so we've been paying attention. We've been listening to you and our families. And that was a very deliberate move to try to expose students to sports while they are at middle school, and to hopefully keep on doing that so that we have a pool of students that knows and feels competent in trying out for a sport or signing up for something when they get to high school. So we're very excited to offer this intramural intro to sports. And for our 8th graders only, we are offering an introduction to innovation pathways. So one of our high school teachers, Mrs. Bigelow, is going to introduce students to the concepts of manufacturing through a puzzle design activity. And there's like a little competition at the end. And so she's designed this program where she can do it for 1 week. And so we're really excited to, again, have opportunities where we can do some bridging into the next level and exposure. The one so far that's the most popular is in the 2nd week of summer programming. It's called Digital Game Design, and it's through STEM training that some of our teachers had received a few years ago. The following week, the students get a choice of 2, and that's a wellness week or Colonial Days Kids. And it's really cute, the Colonial Days Kids, teaching kids how to sew and how to, they're using mason jars. I'm not exactly sure all the things that they're doing, but I've ordered all this really cute stuff for them to use over the summer. The following week is a Qriket design space. So if you know the Qriket machines, the die cut machines, this team wanted to put this class together to create designs to personalize the school. And so to create student-created designs using the Qriket machine to personalize different things around the school. So the kids are really interested in that. And the following week, the final week, August 1 through 4, we have 2 options again, and one is the surgical techniques. It's really kind of like a middle school CSI class. And again, it's this really special training that they had through STEM. That sounds really fascinating. Or the other option is to create your own book where students can become the authors, go through a process with one of the teachers and become the authors of their own books. Those programs are being offered to students that are not being recommended for traditional summer school because they're failing more than 2 or 3 classes. And so we do have a large chunk of students that are in that department. I wish that I could say that we have a full team ready to support those students, but we don't. So we posted on School Spring looking for teachers. And we've also considered a couple of other options, like having supervisors of students and offering an online version of a class with access to a teacher if they so desire. It's not our choice, it's not our first choice, because students are already disengaged and we don't want to put them again in front of a screen because that necessarily hasn't been successful in the last couple of years. So we're actively looking for teachers. And so far today I've scheduled 2 interviews for this week and next week for teachers for that program. And then we have the traditional credit recovery program running for 3 weeks in the summertime at the high school as well. And along those lines, we hope that we are putting together a fairly comprehensive summer programming options for students, and hope that everybody finds a spot if they want one.
That
Thank you.
sounds amazing.
It does sound amazing. I kind of want to go to one of those camps. I want a week playing detective. And Mrs. Barris has some updates on special education summer programming.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. So as we do every summer, we're going to be running the extended school year program for special education. We're running it at the same time and days as the PASS and Title I programs that Patty just mentioned. So we will run July 5th through August 4th. The letters for the program went out today. And as parents respond, we'll start to, put our classrooms together. We had a good response for staff as well. The programs run 4 days a week for 4 hours, and we have programs across the 3 buildings. The Park Avenue Elementary School is our largest number of students, and we have quite a few preschoolers this year that will be joining us. We have approximately 85 students that will be serving in this program, and again, it will run concurrently with those programs that were previously mentioned. We are also running a compensatory service program, also running across those 5 weeks. We have a list of about 25 students. Staff liaisons were asked to take a look at all of the students on their caseloads, to talk, kind of look at things like regression, also kind of like residual regression from the pandemic, as well as students that, needed to stay out of school for, reasons like, family health issues and so forth. So staff have been turning in their names. We'll be sending out a letter and permission slips tomorrow for those students. Those students will also, it will run more or less like a tutoring model, where they'll come to the specific services for an hour, half hour, hour and a half, whatever they require for their recommended services. And then they'll also have an opportunity to push into the PASS program. So families, can just, have them attend the regular hours without having to worry about transportation, or, if they so choose, they can certainly just drive them in for services. So we're very excited about that. Our extended school year coordinator is Susan Ricard, and she'll be with us again this year. And that's about the gist of it for special education. So any questions?
I wanted to add that we are providing transportation for all of the students K through 8.
For all of the camps, or however the programming that you already mentioned.
Yep.
It's amazing. Great.
And I'll just say too, I know that there's been a lot of concern about extended school year and transportation, but we're running our typical, transportation for anybody that's eligible. So.
Excellent. Thank you.
I just had a question about the programs. Will a flyer be going home to parents or posted on the website? For like the camps that you talked about. Mm-hmm.
So information did go out to families already. But information did go out because I was already come back. Okay. So basically the first round is, these are the options, and really talk it up. Let us know if you're interested, and then parents can choose their options, and then they'll get a registration packet with the student information, like, allergies and transportation and all of that stuff. So, but information should have gone out already, and I believe it was posted on Dojo at middle school.
I know for me, I saw it on Dojo, but I don't remember seeing a hard copy, so I'll have to look into that also.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. McKay and Mrs. Barris, for that update. I see Mrs. Honig over there. Hi, Mrs. Honig. I'm good. Thank you for coming. I just want to say a few words about you. I know you're retiring, and I want to wish you well on behalf of the entire district. Mrs. Honig's been with the district since 2001. She's been the business teacher at Bartlett High School, the advisor of DECA, super team, coordinator. We're going to miss you. And she's a graduate of Bartlett High School. You've made a tremendous impact on hundreds and hundreds of kids, and I know you know that, and you're leaving with a smile on your face. You will be sorely missed. I hope you're leaving a code book on all of the super team secrets to pass along to your colleagues. We wish you the very, very best in your retirement years, enjoying your family. And we have a little small something for you as a token of our appreciation. You're very welcome. You're welcome. I know. Oh, come back. Come back. We're going to be jealous that you're retiring. Thank you. Oh. Oh, I want a baby.
A grandbaby.
Yes, I want a grandbaby.
Watch out.
Marianne, I'll see you soon.
Thank you for your many contributions to the Webster School District. You'll be missed.
It's always bittersweet seeing people leave. You're happy for them, but you really don't want them to leave. But we do wish them all the best. I will just continue on with my report very quickly. Mr. Peranto is with Colin tonight. The boys' tennis match is in the second round state tournament in Linfield, Massachusetts. So hopefully they're doing really well and having a great game. Or a great match. So I just want to let you know that Athletic Director Mr. Peranto informed me that our co-op was approved for the Southbridge Webster Boys and Girls Soccer by MIAA. He is in the process of fall signups for other sports. I'm not going to go into that detail for him, but I do want to speak a little bit about the co-op. I know that he has put some communication out there, and I was hoping that he could speak to that. We are looking at getting like a new uniform for kids. So the kids from Webster don't have to wear a Southbridge uniform, and the kids from Southbridge don't have to wear a Webster uniform because they're going to go back and forth between communities. As I had previously shared, they're willing to share transportation with us, and they are also willing to share the cost of new uniforms for the kids. So they're coming up with some ideas on how to merge the logos, and Mr. Peranto was struggling with that a little bit, so I told him if he needed an answer to go to the students, because they'll probably have the answer. So he may be at our next meeting to give you more updates. As a reminder for him, he's sponsoring something very new this year, an athletic field day on Saturday, June 11th over at Bartlett High School for students kindergarten through 8th. Those flyers have gone home with parent permissions so students can get a little taste of some of the sports that are in this district. He's, I think, taking some of the high school kids to help be mentors in that program. So it sounds like a really fun day for students. And for those that are listening, the permission slip is on our website if you did not get it. So we want to PR that. On other news in my update, and I apologize for the lengthy report tonight, but a lot's been going on in our district. We're pretty busy. We did have our month's district safety meeting and really had an in-depth conversation about the recent tragedy in Texas and our own safety and security measures. And so our discussions were really focused on our safety preparedness for summer school programming and planning for next year and taking different approaches. And Chief Hickey and EMS Dave Majorowski, SRO Whiting, our principals and central office staff are going to be meeting again in July to talk really about the ongoing training and drills that we're going to be doing back prior to COVID, which we used to do, and we just are going to restart again. And one thing that came up in our conversation that I think is important again to stress, school safety is not just a school issue, it's a community issue. And so we're really going to be trying to work with our town partners on brainstorming on how to get parents more engaged in our conversations and in the work that has to be done to make sure that kids are safe. It was a really good meeting, and I wanted to share that. I also wanted to share that I had the wonderful opportunity with many of my colleagues in central office to attend the kindergarten story time and meet new families coming into our district and meet the kids. And it was just joyous. I don't think there's another word. It was just so nice to see happy people. And the kids were smiling, the parents were smiling. It was contagious. The students were so well behaved, but so well behaved that it was just amazing. They were, shout out to Gina Wojo, who can jump pretty high, who did an interactive story reading story with the kids, and there was sort of like a Simon Says activity going on, kept the kids entertained. Students and families got to go into classrooms, got to check out the bathrooms, go down the hallway, and ride the bus with their parents. You know, the summer programming that we're putting in place to transition kids into kindergarten is really a wonderful thing to help with that smooth transition and get kids used to being in our school. So we're excited about that, and I really would have been remiss not to mention that. Again, it was just really delightful to see a group of happy people, really excited about school. Also on my report tonight, I did let you know that we had submitted the amendment to the Student Opportunity Act. I received the feedback from the Department of Education, and I'm pleased that we are on target and we met all statutory requirements for the elements of the plan. Many of the areas that we were rated on got the highest marked rating as well developed. So the feedback form is in your packet, and that leads me to toss this over to Dr. Mackay to give an update on Esser and our parent survey, which ties into our Student Opportunity Act.
Thank you. So every year we do Title I survey, a family needs assessment, which really informs our writing of the grants for the following year. And with Esser, we have also had to do an assessment or a family survey with Esser. So this is the second one that we've done this year. So this one was a combined Esser Title I. We sort of merged the two because I think that families are, can't give them a survey every week. So we had not a lot of responses across the district, less at high school than at the other schools, but overall much less than we normally get for responses. However, the families that responded let us know that what they're interested in for us to program for them, whether it's through Title I or using Esser funds, are programs that help the families help the child succeed in school, programs that support students who are experiencing emotional stress, helping families understand what children are learning in school, additional opportunities for after-school tutoring, but not just work completion, not just finish my work, but through experiences with teachers. Somebody actually in a comment added that through experiences. Project-based learning is one of the great ways to do that. And they also said that it would be nice to have some extracurricular activities that were beyond sports, so to meet the needs of more students. How should we use family engagement funds was one of the questions, and families, the highest rated was family workshops, technology resources, educational materials for home use, and at the high school, programming for families on career and college informational workshops. Families also suggested that more notice and better advertising for programming at Bartlett, especially if they're going to invite families in for these workshops. We also ask, at all three schools, what is your preferred method of communication? And so we put everything that we do across the district, including, email, dojo, Power School, written notices, and the largest one was dojo. And the least one noted at the high school was Power School. But the highest one, even at the high school, was dojo, which we don't currently do at high school level. And so that's something for us to think about, that there might need to be a different way for us to communicate with our families that is in line with what they're most interested or have more access to. So this is important feedback. I have the entire survey, but these were the highlights, and this really coincides with the activities that we planned for the Esser grants that we received, as well as to the Student Opportunity Act. So this feeds our desire and the large sums of money that we allotted for extended day and extended year programming for students, for paying attention to student mental health, and for increasing our ability to provide access to Tier 1 instruction for all students, equitable access, and that we need to communicate that to families.
Thank you for those updates. Sounds like some good feedback that you were taking back from that. Any questions or comments from the committee? No?
I'm going to go backwards a little bit tonight. I do want to give a little bit of an update on the Bartlett High School school renovation. We have with us our OPM, John Bates, in the back of the room. And as I go to shut the light, I'm going to just draw your attention to the beautiful artwork on the wall from the Webster Middle School. I want to give a shout out to Denise Poitras, our art teacher, who does remarkable things with the students, as you can well see. So I have been in touch with the MSBA, and there is a letter dated March 31st in your school committee packet. And in that letter, they were informed about the upcoming vote, and as you previously know, we had requested an extension. It's clear in the letter, and it's clear from my conversation that an extension is not guaranteed, and they are not going to be giving us an answer on anything until they see where the vote goes. On June 21st at Bartlett High School at 6:30 p.m. for the special town meeting, and then again on June 28th, the town ballot meeting from 7:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. at Town Hall. Collectively, we've been working with the school building committee, and there's some new flyers, FAQ sheets that have gone out, and we have an updated presentation that we'd love to share with the school committee and answer any questions that you may have about the upcoming proposed vote or project. Mr. Bates?
Okay if I stand?
Sure. Do you?
My voice?
Yeah, we need you to have a mic, I think.
So as the superintendent mentioned, this is an updated presentation at the request of the school building committee and the board of selectmen. It was thought that it would be good to make sure that we're best informing the town on the ramifications of a failed vote versus a no vote, or a failed vote versus a yes vote, I should say. And this committee is very familiar with how we arrived at this point. You know that the district submitted a statement of interest 6 separate times. I believe it was an 8-year process to get to this point, and finally in 2018 was accepted into the MSBA's program. So we can go to the next slide, Monique. And again, this committee is very familiar with the existing conditions of this building. The fact that this facility is exceeded its useful life, over 40 years old now. There's water infiltration throughout. The roof is in terrible shape. Windows and doors are all incredibly drafty, and thermal mitigation is a real concern. We can go to the next slide.
Correct. I also think it's important to note here that
Many times you see the leaks like this, they're coming in the wintertime. If you notice the snow on the roof, the custodians can't go up there when there's a 4 or 2 feet of snow on the roof and get to the spots where it's leaking. So many times you have ice dams underneath that are breaking away the roof. You can't get a repair person up there because of the snow and the ice on the roof. So you wait till that melts and the leaks, and then once it's dried out, they go up and they start trying to find the leak, and it might not be in the area that it was at. It could be, on the other side of the roof that's running down. So these are some of the struggles that we have with repairing.
Yeah, and similarly, the mechanical systems also have exceeded their useful life. You can see the deteriorated condition they're in right now. Heating and cooling the building is a real problem, and these are going to need updated quite soon.
Yep, and if you notice in the picture to the right, there's 2 large boilers there. That first one on the right-hand side had died. That's actually been cut out and removed, and it was replaced with the grant that we applied for to update our system. So there is currently 1 very small boiler there, and the large boiler on the left-hand side, which is in dire need. That 1 boiler only carries about 20% of the load.
Building's not ADA accessible. It was built in a different era with different ADA regulations, and for that reason, it's going to require an upgrade, and we can go into it a bit further, but any work over a certain threshold, once we start doing repairs of this building, is going to trigger ADA upgrades at various levels. And then the education spaces and, for example, the science labs don't meet state standards, not even close. And then we've seen these before and after images of what can be done by simply introducing some natural light into a space, by removing some of these opaque solid walls, and then enhancing the interior feel of the space. And it's a really simple move, architecturally speaking. It's not something that we industry experts would consider to be, let's say, high design or over and above. It's really just bringing this building to what we consider to be the standard condition for a public education building.
One thing that I just want to comment on this is the MSBA projected the enrollment of Bartlett to be 445 students, and the current space in the Bartlett High School was for a junior high of like 11 or 100 students. So we're required to reduce the space based on enrollment. So the way that the designer and the architect reduced the space in the proposed project was to pull out those indoor classes to be efficient and effective. And I think that got lost in translation somewhere. It wasn't that we wanted glass walls and shiny new things. It was a way to remove the space without impacting the exterior building and doing the least amount of work possible. And voila, you get glass walls and sunlight, which all students and staff need.
That
Added by
also-
subtraction.
Yep, and it also reduced the cost of the project because we are, anything over the square footage for the 445 students, the district pays 100%. So by reducing the square footage, it saves money to the community.
Sorry, just to interject there, Mrs. Perangeli. So what you're saying is by reducing the square footage, so how do I put this? If we hadn't reduced the square footage, any of the work that we did on that square footage beyond the 445 students to be enrolled wouldn't have been reimbursable?
Correct, that is correct.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
And on the topic of renovation, it's worth mentioning again that by doing a renovation as opposed to knocking down the building and building a brand new building, we're saving on resources. Steel, concrete, the infrastructure, which is still sound, is salvageable. And it not only is that economically responsible, but it's also environmentally responsible as well. And this is just another example of how a simple move of opening up the space can transform it, make it into a more usable, functional, and lighter space. And this is an image of the front entrance and what can happen with new windows, new dining space adjacent to the cafeteria, and then refurbishing the existing brick.
And I'm just going to go back one slide because I think it's important to note now. One of, safety is a big concern. It's at the front of everybody's mind. And by making a move like this, it's going to allow us to lock off a whole section of the building. So like Park Ave, you have your cafeteria and auditorium. You can shut off the educational spaces so there's not people walking around your building. You're locking it off. Our buildings are, especially the high school, is used quite a bit for our community. So to be able to lock that off at night and allow the community to come in and use our facilities, use our cafeterias and our auditoriums and our gyms, is just going to improve the overall safety and functionality of the building.
Same idea with the back of the building. In this case, they're, like we had mentioned, removing spaces to add to the building. We're taking out the cafeteria, which is oversized as it is, and then creating a new entrance. Ms. Branch,
So-
you want to speak to that?
Sure, thank you. So this is an estimated project breakdown. I think we've seen this before, but so I'll just give a quick review. The first column is the MSBA approved reimbursement. We had a minimum and a maximum. They give us that range because there is money in what you call contingency, and you don't know what that's going to be reimbursed for because it could be a reimbursable expense, it could be ineligible. So you don't know until you decide how to use that if it's needed. So they give you a minimum that you're going to get, which is in the first column, and then the second column is based off the maximum. And then the third column is if we were to do a code upgrade, which is not eligible for reimbursement. We are required by law to look at all options: a code upgrade, a new build, a renovation. This is part of the process. This is part of the MSBA process to weed out, to give us information, to know what we need to do next. So if you look at column 1, which is what we're doing right now, which was our recommended, the tax impact for a $100,000 valuation is $164.90, which would be a net increase to $1.65 in 2027. The middle school's debt is coming off, so that would reduce that increase of $1.52 a day, or $151 per 100,000. The second column is if we receive the maximum reimbursement. You'll see that is $1.59, and if you look net the middle school, that's $1.46. And if we were to proceed with the code upgrade, which we would not be eligible for any reimbursement on that, you would see a $2.18 increase per day. It's actually net the middle school is $205.40, excuse me. Sorry about that. So you see, we really did look at all options to get the most fiscally responsible option for the community, and we believe that's it. And this just reviewed the tax impact. I did call the assessor and got the medium house in Webster, which is $262,000. So that would increase their taxes $432.63 annually. So average daily cost is $1.19. I believe that's less than a cup of coffee nowadays. I don't even know if you can get a coffee for $1 at McDonald's.
I don't think you
anymore.
can.
Not sure.
Maybe on special days.
Maybe. Maybe seniors.
Yeah, I'm not there yet.
So we thought it'd be important for everyone to understand what the MSBA's policy is regarding securing funding, first and foremost. So in our case, on March 2nd, the MSBA board voted to approve this project to proceed into the funding period. And then from there, you have 120 days to vote and certify that funding. If in the event that funding is not secured by vote, it's very clearly stated in their policy that, as the superintendent mentioned, there is a window of opportunity where you can submit a request for an extension. But as it's highlighted towards the bottom there, what's most likely to happen is that in the event of a failed vote, essentially the district goes to the back of the line, and the grant is for all intents and purposes, gone.
So just for clarification, the back of the line means reapplying with a new statement of interest and waiting. So, and it took us on the 6th year to get in. If we go to the back of the line, you have to redo the eligibility phase, the educational visioning, the preliminary schematic design, and the design phase all over again. So we've been working on this project to get to this point for 2.5 years after getting in after 6 attempts. So when you say go back of the line, we go back of the line of a lot of other communities who are probably facing very similar things with their high schools or buildings with upkeep, and it's a competitive process.
There are hundreds of applications submitted every year, and I think when we were accepted, there were 17 districts out of those that were accepted into feasibility. I believe our neighboring town, Dudley, just applied and just got accepted into the feasibility phase, and their building opened around the same time as we. So they are looking to work through a project also. So if we cannot move forward, we're going to be way behind, starting where our neighboring communities might take advantage of some of those state funding to move forward.
Just another question, if you don't mind my interjecting. Was there cost associated with the feasibility and all of that? Will we need to pay for all of that all over again if we ended up not moving forward now?
Correct.
Approximately
We, $1 million.
$1 million.
$1 million we've already spent moving to this point in this project?
Yes.
That's in consultant fees, including my firm and the architect.
I will say that the feasibility is reimbursed at the 76.84, but we did have to go to the community and ask for $1 million to get approved, and then we do get the percentage reimbursement on that.
Will we be reimbursed even if we have a no vote?
Yes, we will.
Okay,
'Cause
that's a
that was-
relief.
That was already approved.
Okay, great.
So I think it's helpful to understand, again, what the ramifications of a no vote would cost the town. On the left-hand side, that column, again, we see that total project budget, that's construction and soft costs of $101.4 million, and then the MSBA share that they've agreed to contribute, and then what would be left for the town to pay in the amount of $49.8 million. And then we had already talked about that code-compliant renovation option. And just to say, hypothetically, it was bid next year in 2023, we know that based on our cost estimates, that would cost approximately $66 million. Again, that's no state funding participation, therefore there's no grant. And that cost of $66.5 million would be entirely on the town. And then what we had done is to say hypothetically, if the town had decided to do these scope repairs in pieces, we'll say, over the course of 12 years, do a batch every 4 years or so, what would that look like financially? And then when you factor in the price of escalation, which we figure to be about 5% annually, in total, when you're done with all of those renovations in, let's say, 2035, that's a cost to the town of about $106 million. And then, again, compare that $106 million to addressing all of those scope concerns, all of those building concerns, in addition to addressing the educational needs that the MSBA so willingly wants to contribute towards for a cost of $49.8 million.
I also think it's, I think it's also important to note that when you go out in chunks, you have a lot of repetitive services. So right now with our project, we went out and we have the OPM and we have the architect for every section and every project that you do. Anything over 1.5 million, you have to go out and hire an OPM. So you would have to do that for every one of those projects, and you're paying for your engineers and your design work. And so you have a lot of repeating costs that you're saving by doing the project at once.
And I've mentioned those repairs that are needed, and we've listed them out here for you, stemming, ranging from HVAC all the way down to hazmat removal. It's a long list. It's lengthy. You've seen the photographs already of some of the needs. And we've broken it down for you line by line and what those we think would cost approximately, depending on when you were to do them. On the right side, those 4 columns tell you if you were to break it out, like I had mentioned earlier, do it, say, in pieces or chunks, what those values would be as in an estimated format. But again, just reiterating that we think it's about $106 million in total if you were to do it in pieces over a course of 10 to 15 years. And then $66.5 million if, say, you were to do it all next year. But either way, all these costs would be directly on the town, and there's no grant support there.
Could you just explain to me, I had this question again today, what soft costs are?
Consultant fees, architect fees, for example, OPM fees, and that makes up the bulk of the soft costs, legal fees, administrative fees, anything that's outside of the hard construction, shovels in the ground, steel, concrete, et cetera, building materials.
So it was asked of me today if this project failed and we were to move forward and we went back out to bid, could we just take the documentation that we have from the engineers from this project and use it on the next one to have?
No, it doesn't work that way. No, you can't hold on to a set of drawings that were done by an architect for a specific project approved by the MSBA and then use them and hand them out piecemeal to other contractors. It just doesn't work that way.
Correct. Thank you.
Yeah, so in summary, what we have here is a grant from the state from between $51 to $53 million potentially. And the upgrades that are needed, as we said, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection, communications and technology systems, again, just bringing these up to what we would consider to be public education facility standards that you're going to see across the Commonwealth. Academic space upgrades, educational spaces so that they meet the state standards, and also addressing the future needs that all, frankly, districts are talking about moving towards the advanced manufacturing program-based learning as opposed to what's been in place the last couple of decades. And then security and accessibility upgrades are a very important topic, especially in light of the recent tragedy. But the design would bring all of those elements up to what we would consider to be educational public building standards, landscape, clear sight lines, as Ms. Perangeli had mentioned earlier, in regards to the entrance visibility, and controlled entry sequences, access control systems, cameras, all the things that I believe the current building does not have, at least not in what we consider to be modern standards. I believe that's the final slide.
Yes. Do we have any questions?
Well, thank you for this overview. I know we've seen a lot of information about this project in a lot of different iterations. One of the questions that I've seen a lot really has to do with whether or not this is being forced onto the town, right? Like if there are some scare tactics going on and we're saying that without this grant, just the code upgrades are $66 million that are going to balloon to over $100 million over the life of the project. And, the question being really how much of that $66 million at the base is actually really necessary. So can you just speak to that, please?
Well, I can't speak on behalf of the town in terms of why they feel it's important to have a revote, say, in light of a failed vote. I can just tell you that what I believe the Board of Selectmen and the School Building Committee felt was this is something that is worth another effort to just make sure that we thoroughly educated the town on what the ramifications of a no vote versus a yes vote are. The fact that this is $50 or so million of grant money that's currently on the table being offered to support both the needed repairs that we've been through, and there's a long list in addition to the education component too. Forgive me, but the question again, I think maybe wasn't exactly the answer, but tell me again, the $66 million.
So I think that there's a question out there of whether or not that 66 million, which as I mentioned, it looks like would balloon to over 100 million, is that really all necessary things, or is this sort of we're piling things on to say, look, if you don't approve this, you're going to have this much bigger bill for a lot less. I mean,
Well, again, I mean, these are repairs that, and the MSBA did an evaluation of the existing building, the existing facility, and part of the reason, or the large part of the reason why we are in this program to begin with is they felt that this building is in need of upgrades, including that list of things that are mentioned. So I can't say, and I don't believe that this is a matter of piling on a list of things that aren't necessary to be done. I mean, if the district and the town feels that they don't want their town high school to be ADA accessible, I mean, that's up to you. If you don't want your HVAC systems to be up to current standards, and that includes COVID-19 mitigating and all those types of things, air exchange rates and all that. If you don't want your high school to be up to modern-day safety standards, I mean, I can't opine on what the town wants, but I mean, I think that from our standpoint, these are the types of improvements that we're seeing across the Commonwealth. Nothing above and beyond or unnecessary or extreme or high design is part of any of this, part of what's proposed.
And I think it's important to note that there are repairs we have to address. I mentioned our heating system earlier, our boiler. That was down for the month of April. I had it repaired. We have had our equipment repaired over the past 6 years. We haven't just let it sit there and break and not use it. But they can only be repaired so much. They can only be maintained so much. We can only change so many filters before. I can give a clear example. Our boilers have 22 sections on each side. Over the past 5 years, I would say I've replaced 3 or 4 of those sections. One of them I had to close off. It's about $15,000 for each section. Just in HVAC repairs alone, since 2018, we have invested across the district about $241,000 just in HVAC repairs. I can tell you plumbing, there's an issue throughout the entire building. It's not just replacing a boiler. We had a leak in one of our hallways about 2 years ago in the summer. The plumber came, he opened up the ceiling. We had about a leak, about 6-inch of pipe that was leaking. They were simple enough, gonna clamp off the end, cut out the leak and put it in. They put a clamp on, the piping is just collapsed. It's corroded through. And that's throughout our entire building. We've replaced the shutoff and installed that coming into the building because the piping is so bad you couldn't shut the water off. So if we ever had a major leak, we were going to be in severe trouble because we didn't have the ability to cap off the water coming into the building. The roofs are just, it's not lack of maintenance, it's just an old roof. And we repair and fix what we can when we can find it. We call people. Sometimes we have people that might come out 6 times, and I still haven't seen a bill for some of it because they can't find the spot where it's leaking because it's either coming in sideways, running down. I'd like to say due to COVID, we have the best airflow in this building, but it's because our windows don't close. So we have a lot of fresh air coming into our building here. But there are rooms where the windows just need to be replaced. These are not minor repairs. These are not neglect. These are things that happen in a 50-year-old building. They need to be replaced. And what we're tasked with, these are not minor repairs, and they're going to trigger other repairs in the building because of the value. So the way it works is once you start repairing something, when you hit that 30% mark, it now triggers all of the ADA requirements and all of the other code compliance. So by addressing the HVAC, is going to kick in the fire suppression systems and all the ADA compliance, which means going through the building and addressing every faucet, every toilet, every, the cafeteria, all the other areas in the building. So it's not just, I can fix the boiler and that's going to fix all our problems. That's not what happens. And that's why by doing this piecemeal, it's going to increase the costs as we move down the road.
So those ADA things, not that I would opt not to do them, but they're not an option once you start doing these other repairs.
It's a requirement.
Okay.
That was my question. Because I do remember at a meeting we had with the selectmen, I think people need to realize that doing it piecemeal, a little bit at a time, my understanding was once you start one of these projects on your own, it triggers the requirement for something else. So it can't necessarily be a little bit at a time. It's going to end up with a lot at one time. And the selectmen told us they can't afford to do that.
That's absolutely correct. Because the first, you look at the first phase, and I think actually it was broken out. They did a nice job as to breaking this out. But if you take a look at your first phase, this is just, whoops. Get it so you guys can see it. A little bigger. It's not a very good, busy slide, I know. But you're just talking HVAC. So HVAC is going to trigger all of your compliance, your fire, your ADA, your site building upgrades, your hazmat, because there is hazmat, you're going to have asbestos in some of the frames and throughout the building, we have that. And then there's miscellaneous demo. So right there in your first phase, you're looking at spending $26 million. Because you now have to go back out to bid, you're gonna have to pay new study, you're gonna have to hire a new OPM, you're gonna have to have design, engineer work, you're gonna have to have consultants. So that 26.9 is more than half of what it's gonna cost the town, with the reimbursement for doing the entire building in one, and along with that, we're updating our educational programming, where in this multi-year, we're just fixing rooms. We're not getting new science labs. We're not getting engineering labs. We're just fixing HVAC systems and fire protection. So we're not touching the educational component at all. It just doesn't make fiscal sense.
I think it's important to note that the MSBA did highlight this proposed project on the story of a building, not only for the educational programming, but because we were being fiscally responsible and ahead of our time a little bit with a renovation. I think the 2-hour presentation, for those that care to watch it, really outlines how much money we are saving the community with a renovation as opposed to a new build, and how we're being efficient and effective.
Efficient, effective, and environmentally responsible.
Yes.
As well. I can attest to the fact that, I was recently working on a project on a building of a similar vintage and scale, and this goes back a few years, but the decision was to knock it down and build new. And that was a decision that was kind of standard and typical of that time, but as the superintendent mentioned, I think that you're on the forefront of a trend towards trying to preserve existing resources, be environmentally responsible, and frankly, in light of the recent economic conditions that we're looking at, the costs savings-wise, when you're not having to ship new steel on site, new concrete on site, not having to spend the gasoline, the diesel fuel to transport these construction materials that you're reusing. There's a lot of economic benefits to that.
I have another question that I thought of. In the renovation, we have one section, the educational part, where students would have to have portable classrooms. Correct?
Modular classrooms?
Right?
Yep.
But I would think that would be even more if the town had to do it on their own, if they have to do an HVAC system or plumbing or heating, we'd have to house those students in these modular classrooms for a longer period of time, which is more of a cost. I would think they would have to be. They couldn't be in the building with all of this being done. You're talking about possibly asbestos and so forth. Once they get into plumbing and everything, they'd have to spend an awful lot of money on modular classrooms for a longer period of time, I would think, if it was done on their own.
It makes sense. It makes sense because modulars is something that is not reimbursable, and that's all built into the initial project costs. So that would certainly drive up costs.
Mr. Adamopoulos?
I have two questions, kind of just get some clarity for items that have been online concerning this project. The first one is, right now we're going through a period of inflation, high material costs. Is it safe to say that this proposal right now is capped at the 101 million and that we won't have to come back to the town in a year or two simply to say, we need more money to get this project done? Ultimately, we've put this forward, the MSBA has granted us the $101 million project, and we would have to stay within that. Is that true?
$101 million is the project budget, and that doesn't change. And whatever we as a team have to do to keep within that budget, we have to do it. Whether that's value engineering, whether that's taking out scope and bringing it in as that alternates at the time of bidding to see where the bids come in when we do go out to bid and whether we can re-include that scope back in. That's what we have to do as a design and consultant team. But to answer your question, no, that is the project budget.
So the town can feel comfortable that that's what we're going to do. We're going to find a way of getting this project done within that cap.
That's not a moving target that just that floats along with the economic climate that we're in. That is the budget.
And the second one I had is going back, I think this is one that's readily out there, and I think there's a lot of miscommunication about it. There's a belief that the town and the administration and the school committee has just neglected this building over the last 10 plus years with hopes of getting this. Is there a part in our application that was submitted where we had to demonstrate the maintenance that was done to this building? And was there a score that was given to the project application based upon what we've ultimately done over the last 40 years of having the building in place?
You could probably answer that best. I mean, I will say yes, there is a process in place where the state comes and evaluates existing conditions, and I believe that the district was awarded some incentive points for their maintenance out of a scale of between 0 to 2. I want to say it was somewhere above 1.5 reimbursement points for their maintenance. So, from the state's perspective, they didn't see this as an issue of neglect.
Thank you.
They actually commented when they came in, they were quite impressed with how well the building was maintained and how it looked when they walked through. We started off joking that the building looks too good because we were worried we weren't gonna get accepted in and when they came to evaluate the building, because that's what they do as they come out for every project. I do want to say that I've been here for 23 years. I've worked in the business office for 23 years. In my capacity in all my roles has been from start to finish, from here is our purchase order or a quote for this job, please get it done, to now making decisions and going out to bid and looking at the overall maintenance for the district. We maintain our buildings. We take care of our buildings. Nobody is not fixing something and just putting a bucket under a roof and never calling anybody, or not repairing. Our custodians have an extreme amount of pride in their buildings, and they take their jobs very seriously. And I know it's a little disheartening for them to hear out in the community that the perception is that they don't maintain their buildings, because I'll tell you, on Saturday morning when they're here doing a building check and they're calling me at 7 because something's not working, or, I'm getting a call at 10 o'clock night, Mo, we need to fix this, there's a question about that, or there's a concern. We have monthly meetings, we go over any maintenance concerns that they have. We talk about them, we look at repairs, what's the best way to fix it. Let's do it right, so it's not coming up again. Let's not put a Band-Aid approach on this. I don't have a problem going back to the town and asking for money for repairs. I think we've done that. I think we've shown that we've done that. You know, 2 years ago, I was getting complaints. We were looking, they were bringing it to my attention about our tennis courts were cracking and they were gonna become unusable. Like our fields over there, our track over there. So we went to the town, we asked for money to update our tennis courts to make sure they're usable. We have gone to the town and asked for money to maintain our parking lots, to repave in sections. These, you know, they might seem like smaller projects. These projects are debt exclusion. That you can't afford these type of projects on our normal tax levy. Most of these are debt exclusion. You have to go out and borrow. You can't just afford to do these. But, you know, we were concerned about safety. I think it was one of Dr. Gogan's first things here in the district when she came. She did not like the entrance to the high school. Once you were buzzed in, you were in.
Yep.
You didn't stop. You could go anywhere in the building. We added that vestibule there and put up a wall and put up key doors. So, you know, you can come in, but you can't enter the building. We have applied for grants when we don't get funding. We applied for the grant because we didn't know what was going to happen with our boilers. So we started researching and going back to the working with the town, and we got a green grant to at least take care of one of the boilers. We still have more to do. We were going to look for additional grant funding. We got grant funding to update our security in the middle school and Park Ave. We added cameras. So we are actively seeking ways to upgrade our buildings, and we are doing the very best we can to maintain our buildings outside and inside. And, you know, I kind of take it to heart because I know how hard the group works and how hard the custodians work and how much pride they take in their building. They treat this building like their home.
They do.
And-
They
and
absolutely do.
So I think it's important for people to know that. And I appreciate all the hard work they do because they own it and they take a lot of pride in it. And I just think it's really important for people to know that.
We would not have been able to renovate a building if it wasn't maintained with the way it was maintained. So I think you've heard our designer and our OPM say that the bones are good. It's the other failing systems that just simply have reached their life capacity. And that's what we're talking about. And I do want to give a shout out to our custodians because they really do deserve it. And it is like their home. And they're Johnny on the spot. And they always have been. So it is disheartening to have people think that they would ignore serious things. They're fixing things and being creative and makeshift things to do the repairs. So thank you to all of them.
Just want to make one last comment to reiterate something that the town administrator, and I think the town accountant made at the meeting where we were all at, and we went back to see if we get this one further vote. If we do have to go out and borrow simply for the code renovation, that is going to place a heavy burden on a yearly basis on the general budget because it's going to come out of the town's budget. I just think that the people that didn't see that meeting need to just realize that that money is just going to lower the amount of funds that are available to both the school and to the town moving forward.
If it's not a debt exclusion,
If
you
it's not
mean.
a debt exclusion, if we
Correct.
just go to for borrowing. And ultimately, there's only certain ways that we can overcome that cost, and that's likely going to lower down the services that we could provide to the town's taxpayers in general. So
Townwide, not just
townwide,
schoolwide.
exactly. So I think it was made apparent by the town accountant that it would have a disastrous effect on both budgets, the towns and the schools. And just going off the code renovation itself, you know, isn't addressing any of the educational components that I think a lot of our students desperately need to get this up to a 2022 version of a school at this point. But the burden that's going to put on the budget, I think, would just be disastrous. And I think a lot of people in this town just need to kind of take that to heart. that it's not simply going and borrowing, but it's going to lower down the services that we provide here to the school and also in the town in general.
Thank you, Mr. Adamopoulos. I'm asking some tough questions because I'm getting comments on social media with inquiries from taxpayers in town. There's a perception out there, Mrs. Perangeli, that there have been funds allocated for either maintenance or repairs for the school that have either gone unused or have been used for other things. So can you just talk to us a little bit about how we budget for, this is the Reader's Digest version, by the way, because I know you can talk about this for a long time, but how we determine what we're going to budget for things like maintenance and repairs, and then what happens if we don't need that money for some reason? I don't know if that's ever happened, but can you explain that? It's never happened.
It's never happened, not
That's good
in
to
my
know.
time here. Have we had savings in maybe electricity or some of our utilities when we've had good years? We've had warm years, we've seen some savings in our electricity or our heating, but we have never had savings in our maintenance. We look at what our annual costs are yearly. We have our regular maintenance items that come in. We have all our filter changes. We are very fortunate because our custodians change our filters and do a lot of the regular maintenance stuff they can do on their own. So we're talking just materials and stuff like that, but all the repairs that are done. We've been increasing our maintenance at the high school over the past few years. I think we budget $75,000. I'm thinking off the top of my head, and I think last year we spent over $100,000, I believe, in maintenance alone. So we look at each building's maintenance, we look at what they're doing. It's a newer building, you shouldn't have to repair as much, so your maintenance cost should just be your normal everyday maintenance, your trash, your boiler inspections, your fire inspections, your filter replacements, any type of that repair. Oh, it's not even a repair, it's just upkeep to the high school, which is an older building where we spend more every year. So we also put money in extraordinary maintenance. That's about $10,000 to $15,000 for anything that might be a large repair, over $5,000, and that unfortunately is always eaten up. But I am not giving maintenance money back to the town. I wish that was the case because we wouldn't be in this predicament.
And we can't just take maintenance money and spend it on something else that's more
No,
fun,
we
right?
cannot. Any kind of, if I wanted to move money from maintenance to, let's say, a salary line or a general supply line, I would need school committee permission to do that. So I am not allowed to move funds from a maintenance to a salary, from a salary to a supply. I don't have that authority. So you would see any kind of transfer between line items that come up.
Thank you for clarifying that.
You're very welcome.
And I also just want to give a shout out to the custodians across the district. I'm continually impressed with how amazing all of the buildings look, but especially Bartlett. When I come in here as a Bartlett grad and I see how shiny the floors are and, they are clean. They just, they need some work beyond custodian work.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments?
Through the chair.
Ms. Millett?
I don't have a question about the renovation, but I'm assuming we're still part of the superintendent's report?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a long one tonight.
Yeah.
It is. I just wanted to bring up, especially to the committee, concerns that have come to me from staff about safety, which is the public use of the campus, middle school, and Bartlett campus grounds while students are in session and they are outside. And so I did a little investigating, and the Shepherd Hill campus with their middle school has signs up to tell people that the grounds cannot be used if there's a student activity being used, because staff is seeing this as a safety concern now. There have been some altercations, that's the way it was described to me. There was somebody hitting golf balls. out on one of the fields and on where the middle school has recess. There were people there when they went out for recess. So I think that's something now that we need to look at, and not prohibiting use by any means, but maybe, I don't know how much video surveillance we have. They also had signs up about video surveillance. And it's been brought to me that it's a concern for safety, because there are other people out there at the same time the students are. So it's just something I think we need to do some investigating and looking at to keep everybody safe.
Thank you, Ms. Millett. Before we move on, any other questions or comments more related to the Bartlett High School renovation project? We're all set there? Okay, all right. I'm sure that's something that we could look into. I mean,
Yes.
even signs.
And Ms. Millett and I have spoken, and I have spoken to some teachers as well who have been unsettled with running into people with their class. And I think it's a larger conversation, probably not for tonight, but I do know that Ms. Millett has shared other districts do post no public activities during the school day, or, we certainly have to find that fine line and balance, because we want this community to use our grounds, but we have to make sure that our school is safe during the school day. So I think that I would like to just digest some of this information and maybe have a later conversation with the school committee on this. But I think I think we do need to discuss that.
And we were already talking
Yep.
before we were even made aware of this. I had met with our groundskeeper and our athletic director, doing a check-in and what are they seeing around the grounds. And, they talked about the basketball courts. We get a lot of usage on the basketball courts, but there's also a lot of trash and items being left behind. So we talked about posting signage, because our cameras do reach out to the basketball courts. We can see what's going on out there. So we are going to make people aware that video surveillance is there, and we're going to be a little more active in checking those things after. I've asked them to bring it to my attention. And so I know we can look at further down the road, but I mean, prior to this, we were already having those conversations. So we can certainly look into things more down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, certainly safety is, paramount, but we certainly want to make sure people have access.
Okay, it's still my report, right? I think that concludes my report, and I would just ask Chair Siddiqui if she could move, well, maybe Mr. Thomas first, and then move the WEA President, Ms. Nassis, who's been very patient, up after Mr. Thomas's report. We aim to please.
Good evening, Mr. Thomas.
Good evening, Chair Siddiqui. I see that you and Sheila got the green memo that somehow escaped
sure
everybody
did.
else up there. I'll try to go through this quickly. Colin is not here, and Dr. Gogan alluded earlier to the boys tennis team playing in Linfield today. They have reached the round of 16 for the Division IV state tournament. I'd also like to give a shout out to the girls softball team who made the states this year. A great accomplishment. When the MIA moved from the district level to the state, you're now competing against teams from all across the state to reach that level. So congratulations to them. I'd like to run through some of the events that have occurred at Bartlett High from May. I know that many of you were present at them, but just in case the community is not aware, we had the super team at the beginning of May. Ms. Nassis and Mr. Carney put on a great dinner theater show in May 6th. We had our spring concert, our annual spring concert, and then we held our prom on May May 21st at Indian Ranch. We had over 120 students there, and the kids were fabulous, great behavior, no incidents whatsoever, and the kids all had a great time. Of course, you were all present at our scholarship night, which again highlights the unprecedented generosity of the community for the money that they give to our students. That's just amazing. And having been from, seeing other places where my kids went and where I worked, this is truly unprecedented for the community of Webster. We started our MCAS biology today, session 1, for our freshmen and a few of our sophomores, and we hope we will conclude that tomorrow. Freshmen is our biggest group, so it takes quite an effort to get. We had like 8 different proctors between the small groups and the large groups, so it's quite an effort to get those people coverage so that they can test, but we got through it today, and hopefully we'll finish up tomorrow. And then the last thing I want to talk about is some of our senior week, because I know you will all be there Friday evening. The weather looks good. The seniors did their trip to High Meadows last Friday. Again, great reports from our chaperones and from the folks at High Meadows on our kids' behavior and how well they interacted with other students and with themselves. Monday of this week, we started our senior awards. This was largely athletic, where you had the team MVPs and the coaches awards and things like that. We also gave out our stoles for graduation to our senior class officers, and then the cords to the various groups, the National Honor Society, Nichols Honors Academy, and so forth. We gave those out on Monday, and that was followed up by the senior barbecue, where Mr. Young was manning the grill, and myself and a few other people were stacking the dogs and burgers to make sure that our kids get those, and that was a great time out there. Grads on Parade will take place on Thursday, where our students will be bused down to Park Avenue. They will get a police, fire, and EMT escort back up to the middle school, where they will go through there, and then they'll conclude when they go through Bartlett. And then, obviously, Friday night, 6 o'clock, again, weather report looks very promising. Not too warm, but sunny, and that will be our graduation. And I know for a couple of you, that's going to be a very emotional evening, seeing your daughters go through there, but everyone's looking forward to it. Seniors have been great, and I'm glad that we were able to provide so many of these events that have been held in the past. Traditionally, that the pandemic and that sort of stuff like kind of interrupted that, but we were able to put those on in person this year, and well attended, well behaved, and looking forward to Friday evening.
Thank you for your updates, Mr. Thomas. Are there any questions from the committee?
I have a comment, if I may. Mr. Thomas, I just wanted to thank you as a parent for the last few years that you've been here, guiding the kids through the pandemic, emailing them weekly, showing up at almost every event. It just, it meant a lot to them to look out and see you there, and just kind of focusing in on them, on every single individual student. So I just wanted to call that out and thank you. And I know we've had these conversations in private, but I wanted to call them out in public as well. So I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And through the chair, I'll just say ditto because I'm too emotional.
Mr. Thomas, I also would just like to thank you for your ongoing engagement and commitment to our students. I don't think I have been to an event that you haven't been present at, and your presence speaks volumes to the care and consideration you have for our students. And, those relationships are really important, and especially over these last couple of years, I think that I've observed students having a really hard time being engaged in their learning, and I think you've made a difference for a lot of students. So I just want to thank you for your dedication.
You're entirely welcome.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? No? Thank you for your updates. See you Friday. The next item on the agenda, we have bounced around this agenda so much. Ms. Nassis, would you like to join us to talk about the Webster Educators Association contract?
Sure.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you guys?
Very good, thank you.
I'm not sure what I have to talk about, except that we spent months
Having fun.
having fun. Really, we did interest-based bargaining, which is, I think a few of you were on the committee last time as well. So it was just, it's everyone just works together to get to answer questions, to tell stories, and to explain why we want things changed and why we need things changed, or why we want to keep them the same. So it was definitely collaborative. We had Lois Mason was back again and worked with us again. She's fantastic. And we were able to come to consensus on most of the items that we brought to the table for the benefit. And it was always students first, student-based, and equitable, what's fair, and what's financially responsible, like fiscally responsible. So that was important for all of us. So I think we ratified it last week. The union did with a 76% in favor of ratification. So we're happy to move forward in the next for the next round.
It was, I think, a very good process for us to work together, to listen to each other and hear different perspectives on the whys. I think the conversations that we had through negotiations really let us both see how and why things impact management versus teachers and vice versa. And I think I have a short summary list of some of the high changes that are going to be in the contract. But before I go to that summary list, I don't know if Nick or Monique or Kathy want to say anything about the process of negotiations. Nick?
I just want to say that I wasn't sure what to expect going into it. And I think we only met 4 times. We got through a lot of everything. As Ms. Nassa said, we were able to come to consensus on a vast majority of things, get different perspectives on things, and work towards a middle ground. I want to thank you and all the teachers that came for those. I want to thank Ms. Barris and Mr. Angeli and Dr. Gogan for taking the time to do it. It was a great experience. I think it's definitely a contract that is beneficial to the union, but also to the district as a whole moving forward for the next 3 years.
I agree. I would just like to say it's a very collaborative process, and I always think it's a great opportunity. We all get busy in our days and in our duties and our jobs, and this really forces us to be in a room and talk and listen and really hear what's going on from each other's perspectives and to work through those with good conversation. And I think we did that in all of our sessions. So thank you. It was a good process and good for a few more years.
I got 3.
We did have a good number of laughs.
We did.
I would just basically say ditto. We, it was an excellent group of people to work with, and just really refreshing to have very, cordial but important conversations, and people were very respectful. I really enjoyed the process. I mean, even though it was, time goes into it, but it was definitely time well spent. So.
I will just run over a quick summary of some of the changes for the school committee. We did increase the hourly rate for extra assigned duties for teachers to $45 an hour. We extended the retirement notice date to the start of the next school year. We took out the high school schedule because that was inhibiting any kind of managerial change at the high school. We did change language for a few of the employees who are requested to work on summer projects. These work schedules will be produced and locked in by May 1st, so those particular employees can plan for their summer. We did make a shift. As you may or may not remember, we are still updating our website, and we really need to have our webmasters work through the summer, so that was one of the changes that we put in. We made some updates to professional development amounts for non-tenured teachers, that they would have access to some funds after 90 days of employment. We clarified preparation time for pre-K teachers, elementary and middle. We increased longevity a slight amount. We made some, I think, some really good significant updates to the evaluation system, because we truly believe here at Central Office that the evaluation system is not a gotcha, and it's really a way to develop a relationship with teachers and to help coach and guide them. So we put in some more mini observations into the classrooms for administrators, really to put the structures around good, healthy conversations around teaching practices and student achievement. We did develop some new forms and timelines. We did put in a change with personal leave, that approval parameters are required for any personal leaves after May 1st. As you well can imagine, this year has been very tough with absences, and then, personal leaves at the end of the year come in like very quickly. So there was some very good conversation about that. We did put a cap on the stipends at 2% for the life of this contract, and we put in a salary increase of $2.75 the first year, $2.5 the second year, and $2.25 for the third year. Just on a note from the superintendent, I do want to give a shout out to our teachers and staff and custodians and cafeteria workers across the district as we are negotiating across the district with 5 contracts. We, from our perspective, really understand that this year and the last 2 years have been extremely challenging. I do hope that our employees see that we've really tried to go above and beyond to support people, not just financially, but emotionally and socially, and with additional people in our district, because together we are a much stronger team. And I think just the process of our union negotiations with WEA was fantastic and really epitomized that teamwork and that ability to really understand different perspectives and then come down to some consensus of what was going to work best for students and teachers and admin unilaterally. So it was a great process.
Thank you, Dr. Gogan. Ms. Nassas, any other comments?
No other comments.
Okay, well,
Thank
thank
you
you.
very much, you guys.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you Friday.
You bet.
You have
need
to
to
vote.
vote?
Yes, you have to vote.
Hold
They
on
have to
one
vote.
second, it's not official yet. We're going to save that vote until the very end.
Look like that. I'm a little nervous.
I will entertain a motion to approve this contract as presented.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Lori, would you please poll the committee?
Member Adamopoulos?
Yes.
Member Naprata?
Yes.
Member Blythe?
Yes.
Lunt?
Yeah.
Chair Stevens?
Yes. Motion approved. Thank you, team.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda, in no particular order, under new business, is the request for additional 2.0 FTE paraprofessionals and 1 FTE ABA position at Park Avenue Elementary School, which is grant funded, as I understand it. Ms. Bears?
Hi again.
Hello.
Thank you. Yes. Well, we have had really, I would say, an unprecedented year in special education. Year to date, as I checked today, we've had 170 initial evaluations. On a typical year, I think the average since I have been here for the past 10 years has been probably about 110 to 120. So you can see that not only has this been just a very busy year, but I think the impact of COVID on the district, you can start to see that, it's definitely taking its toll on students and a lot of resources, obviously. But I wanted to mention that we also have had an, I don't know the total number, I did get the number from the middle school, but number of move-in students with IEPs that came to the district. Just at the middle school alone this year, we had 25 students move in. So in addition to, all of the students we started the year with, we added those students to the count. And I know that we do have a very high rate of special education. It will be, I think, interesting to see, again, the total impact that COVID has had, but already I think our percentage rate, is definitely showing a significant increase. So I mention that because part of the move-ins, and this doesn't have to do with the middle school, but with the elementary school, we've had 2 students who have moved in the last 4 months who require one-on-one support per their IEP. And after, our obligation is to provide that. And in developing the new IEPs and their contract with Webster for IEP services, those needs have continued. In addition to that, we have had a significant rise in our preschool early childhood referrals. And one of the requests is actually for support for 2 students who have moved in or not moved in, but were found eligible for services that will require an ABA support. And 2 of the other students were one-to-one supports. We are able, and to understand the process that we do go through, I'll sit down with the building principals and we'll look at, all of the students that receive some level of support, which students can be grouped together, how large that group can be. If the student requires one-on-one support, we are very diligent in the process of deciding that. We have created guidelines for that determination and a rubric that helps the teams decide how that support's going to be provided. So it's not a, just kind of a blanket, yes, they have this type of service, so we'll give them support, but it goes beyond that. I know I'm oftentimes in front of you asking for the support, and at this point in time, this is what our newest needs are. The year is still rolling. We have a lot of initial evaluations that we're still vetting. And, I am hoping that we'll be able to move forward, with the current staff and the addition of these positions. They are positions that have been written into 2 grants, the ARP grants that have been provided as a result of the pandemic. So they will go through the following year. So with our efforts to help kids be as independent as possible, we're hoping that, by that point, we'll have a reduced need and we won't need those positions anymore. But should we will, talk about that through the budget process for the following year. But so that's kind of I wanted to provide some background because I know that, it's, another ask for, additional bodies for the building, but very important. And, it definitely has to do with student safety and student well-being.
Thank you, Ms. Barris. It's helpful to have that context, and I think that so many of us have indicated what an extraordinarily hard year it's been this year, in particular after a couple of very difficult years even before that. And this just continues to be more sort of fallout, I guess, from what's gone on over the last several years within the world, not specific to Webster, but kids having more needs. And 170 initial evaluations is extraordinary.
Everybody's very tired.
Well, I'm sure. I'm sure.
It's, yeah, and just, I looked at our total number of active students as of today, and it's a little bit different than how we do the state count, but like I look at our program and see how many students have been, the new referrals that have been found eligible. Our eligibility rate really has kind of stayed steady despite that high number, but there's such a high number of referrals that, the number has increased. But as of today, we have 491 students who receive special education services or have an IEP here with the district. That does include out-of-district, as well as, any SEIS kids, in comparison to 437 this time last year.
That's significant. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve this request for 2 additional paraprofessionals and 1 additional ABA position at Park Avenue Elementary School.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Lori, would you please poll the committee?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you again.
Thanks.
Let's see here, where to next?
Old business.
Oh, we're going to,
yes,
are we
donations.
going?
Donation. Yeah. The donation from the Doug Flutie Foundation.
Okay, so
Finish new business.
the next item on the agenda under new business will be the acceptance of a donation from the Doug Flutie Jr. Foundation.
So on the screen, you can see a big communication board. I want to give a shout out to Lisa Cotter, who's in that picture, with some beautiful students of ours. Lisa applied for a grant through the Doug Flutie Foundation, and it came through in May, and May is Better Speech and Hearing Month. Thank you to Lisa. Many of our students use this now out on the playground, and without her, we would not have had this. And thank you to the Doug Flutie Foundation for prioritizing Park Avenue Elementary School.
Excellent. Any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to accept this donation from the Doug Flutie Jr. Foundation for Autism, which is the playground communication board at Park Avenue Elementary School.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Lori, would you please poll the committee?
Yes.
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 Yes, the motion passes. And again, thank you to Ms. Cotter for seeking out this grant and giving a voice to some of our students who may not otherwise have it on the playground. Should we close out new business with item D here? Okay. So the next item on the agenda is the approval of the diversity, equity, and inclusion job description. Dr. Gogan?
Thank you. This is a new position that we put in the FY23 budget, and a position that we believe we strongly need in our schools to really assist with the implementation of equitable practices across our school. I think we are doing great things here, and one of the things that we need to look at it with a closer lens is really the data around the different subgroups and how different subgroups have access to culturally responsive material, to high-level curriculum, high-level courses, to how we're implementing inclusionary practices across the district, to really work not just with looking at that, but work with a team at each school and the principal at each school on the ground to see what those implementation practices look like, and come up with, over the year, a plan of action and professional development for our teachers. This is a new position that many districts are putting in play, and the Department of Education is actually running a program for coordinators of District of Equity and Inclusion along with small teams. And so we're hoping to have this job description approved and hoping to find the right person, and then putting together a team that can go through that professional development that DESE is offering with a step-by-step structure on how to gather that type of data. We at central office are far removed from the day-to-day practices, and we've got to tighten that through line. And we see this position as someone that can work with principals, work with teachers, work with students and families, and the central office to help bring that equity lens to light.
Any questions or comments from the committee?
Yes, through the chair. Is this a position that's in the budget now?
It's in the FY23 budget, and my recollection is that it's in the FY23 budget, but we're going to access Esser funds.
That's correct.
Yes.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments? I just have one comment, maybe two in one. I'll keep it brief. This is an exciting opportunity to, shine a light on things that, really becoming sort of actively engaged in this process of identifying folks that may not have the same opportunities as others, and really providing those opportunities, I suppose. And I just wondered about the role that this person may have with regard to actively recruiting people from different groups that represent our student population in order to have our students be able to see staff that sort of look like they do. Any thoughts on that?
We certainly would like to increase our diversity in this district in our hiring process. And I do see that this person would have a voice at the table, and also working hand in hand on some things with our bilingual family liaison to get parent involvement, as well as the hiring process, yes, but also the parent involvement. I think that I think all schools are being faced with and challenged with finding a diverse employment. I'm sorry. I'm getting
Candidates?
tired. Candidates. So I do see them as someone helping us to open that gateway. But more importantly, I see them initially helping us form tighter relationships with families. To understand the different cultures that we're servicing, to have our parents feel that they can develop trusted relationships at schools. I think that this position is sort of a broad position, and it really is going to take the right person to fill this. It's not just looking at programming and saying this curriculum doesn't match this. It's really taking a deeper dive into the subgroups and the marginalized students and the student data, and looking at all the different avenues on how we can improve that particular student subgroup success rate. And to me, the parent involvement piece is key. I think, district-wide, that's something that we really need to work on. But I think for our students that are in particular subgroups, we do have a bilingual family liaison, and she's been doing a wonderful job with communicating and dealing with parents, but we need them to come in. We really need to open our doors for families. So I see this coordinator of diversity, equity, inclusion, not just working with families, not just helping with the hiring pool, working with teachers and staff, working with students and families, and really making sure that those day-to-day practices, because sometimes you do things and you don't know that you're excluding a particular group by the way you do it. But really helping us see that with a new lens, coming in and seeing that. And I'm sure through the DESE professional development, there are assessment tools that they will be helping coordinators of diversity and equity use with a group of people, not in isolation. This is not someone coming in to do something to us. This is someone coming in to work with us and have a cohesive team with various stakeholders on that team, really looking at what does the data say. Quite frankly, we've talked about this. Every school in our district has a different culture, and they have different areas of strength and different areas of need. And I think having someone to really come in with this lens and look at their practices and work with the principals and the teachers is going to help us. Your question, your original question, Kelly, was really about hiring. I think all districts are challenged with finding people that represent the student population to teach them. I mean, there's multiple studies on, most of the teachers are white.
Mm-hmm. No, it's true. It's
And
not an issue unique to Webster by any stretch.
And, we try. But, maybe by having that lens uncovered here and those detailed conversations, we will be able to really examine some of our practices that may break through some other walls that we don't know that we even have. So that's the goal of this position.
That's excellent. And even if there are not walls per se, there may be other avenues that we could be pursuing that we just are not even aware of.
Right.
So I can see lots of opportunity with training as well. So very exciting. I said I would keep it short. If there are no further questions, I will entertain a motion to approve the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Coordinator job description as presented.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Lori, would you please poll the committee?
Yes.
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 Yes, motion passes. Excited to see where we go with this position. So just in the interest of minding our agenda here, we've tabled the business manager report. Mrs. Perangeli, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And we're tabling the student rep update because Colin is out there winning a tennis tournament. And that brings us to old business. The first item under old business is a COVID protocols update. Dr. Gogan?
Thank you. We've seen a slight decline over the last 3 weeks. The week ending 5/24, we had 20 students with COVID and 5 staff. The week ending 5/31, we had 10 students and 6 staff. The week ending today, we had 7 students and 3 staff. The state has informed us that they will continue to do their K-12 testing through the end of this school year and through the summer school programming. In the fall, the state will no longer supply self-test or any other COVID services to schools. It will be at our own cost. We recently updated our COVID protocols and shared that out with our families. Quarantining is no longer needed for close contacts in any setting as long as the person is asymptomatic. We have been and we will continue through the summer to test symptomatic individuals. And that closes up COVID, and I hope we don't have this on our agenda next year. Any questions on COVID? No.
No. The next item on the agenda is the monthly report on fundraising applications. Just as a reminder, it's the role of the school committee to review fundraising applications, but not to approve them.
We have the National Junior Honor Society running a concession food stand at the spring concert at Webster Middle School on June 9th. And they also have the 88's restaurant donating a percentage of proceeds for those who go to eat on June 2nd and June 16th. And thanks to Laura Foley for being the National Junior Honor Society lead. And that's it.
Excellent. Any questions or comments from the committee on those fundraising activities? Okay, and the next item on the agenda is the superintendent evaluation, the presentation of annual goals.
Thank you. I have a very detailed, long report in your school committee packet on how I believe I met my goals for the 21-22 year. In front of you is just one binder, and there are more in my office, and I would encourage any school committee member to come and sit with me and take a peek at them. I'm not inclined to read all of these after a very long meeting tonight, but I will summarize a couple of things. As the superintendent of this district, I will state honestly that this has probably been the toughest year of my educational administrative career in terms of managing the complex situations that we all had and everybody in this school district has had this year. I think that throughout these challenging times, I believe that my leadership really stuck to keeping a focus on students and teachers and safety. I feel that I have demonstrated that with some of the safety work that we've done around COVID, communications, and making sure that things are responded to in a promptly time. My goals have been focused on being a strong instructional leader, I meet with my central office team weekly, but every minute of the day we are passing the baton. And I will honestly tell you that I wouldn't be sitting here as your superintendent if I didn't have such a supportive central office team as I do. And I hope that our central office team models what teaming can do to create sustainable change throughout the district. I also facilitate district leadership teams with our principals. I coach our principals and our assistant principals and deans through many of the challenges that they have been facing this year, from anywhere from personnel to COVID to dealing with parents to discipline incidents reports. We try to work as a united team for one reason, and that's kids. And we really try to keep that simple. It's a very detailed report on my evidence. I started out the year and start out every year with a district leadership summit where we collaboratively come up with district goals. And our goals this year have been focused on a literacy reset. And there's been an enormous amount of work from my office, from me personally rolling up my sleeves, working with my curriculum director and the Title I director and principals and our district literacy team on looking at our literacy instruction and making sure that it's on grade level and making sure that our teachers have the support that they need to differentiate their instructional practices. It's been challenging, but we can't veer away from that. All the research in the world will tell you that students that do not have strong literacy skills don't make it to college and may not make it through high school. And so there's been a concerted effort on foundational literacy skills, and we have some work to do on Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions. I hope that my transparency with data has been seen by the school committee, using data to inform our decisions. I know that my communications with the community is positive. One thing this year, me personally, upon reflection, I was not in the buildings and able to enjoy the students and teachers as I have been in years past because of the heavy lift of some of the things that are going on. And there has been an enormous heavy lift with the Bartlett High School renovation project. Mrs. Perangeli and I have worked beyond hours of the day to ensure that communication has gone out, in addition to the curriculum work that we're doing in the district and dealing with the surprises that we have. I'm very proud of the work that we have accomplished in terms of gathering grants and moving the innovation pathways forward at the high school. I personally have been very closely involved with that. I think there's a lot of great things on the cusp for this district, and I'm always thrilled and proud of the way that the community responds with donations to us. The partnership with Mafre is just one small example. Having the Slater Museum right in our back corner now presents wonderful opportunities. I'm proud to be the superintendent of this district. I hope that my lens of caring for not just the students and the teachers and the community is seen by the school committee. I'm more than happy to go through my binder of evidence with you, and I will save you from me reading the 18-page report that I produced for you. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Dr. Gogan. Any questions or comments from the committee? Well, Dr. Gogan, I would just, sorry, Ms. Blythe, were you about to say something? No. I would just like to thank you for your tireless leadership, in particular during the COVID-19 pandemic. You seem to be continually just slightly ahead of where things were trending and really able to keep our teachers and our students as safe as possible during a very difficult time. And I think that all of us looking in the rear view can probably identify areas that could have gone differently, but we were not looking in the rear view. We didn't have that benefit at the time. So I think your vision and your strategy related to all of that has been very impactful, I guess, and really imperative for keeping us as close to on track as we could be, given the situation that we were in. And certainly lots of work toward unpacking the data that we have available to us and using that to inform future directions. So I want to thank you for all of your countless hours and hard work over the last year.
Thank you. It's a team effort, and I mean that.
Thank you. All right, so committee members should seek you out to
You know
review
where
your
I am.
binders. We do. Let's see here.
So I will be sending out the evaluation tool. Same one you did last year.
Mhm.
And you read it and compile them all.
We can work together on that. And we have a tight turnaround time on that.
We do, yes.
We need to have that
We
prepared.
actually have a little bit extra. We're not meeting.
Correct.
Since the 21st is
But that's a good point, but just to clarify, so the evaluation, once we receive it, we'll need to complete that, I would say, no more than a week, so that Lori and I can get to work on compiling all of that, so we can then unpack that at our next meeting. So, okay, great. I think that, let's see here, we have a transfer that's lingering down here.
I'm
So
sorry. Yes, you do have a transfer.
it was under adjournment, just keeping me on my toes. So, Dr. Gogan, do you want to talk about the transfer from the Bartlett High School Student Activity Savings Account to the checking account?
I'm going to let Mrs. Perangeli talk about it. That's all I know is the amount. It's 12,000.
From the student activity savings to the student activity checking, $12,776.50.
Do we have any more information about that?
I have
The packet.
It's their normal transfer. Once they reach a certain amount of checks that they've written, they always come to you for their standard request.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the transfer of $12,776.50 from the Bartlett High School Activity Savings Account to the checking account.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Lori, would you please poll the committee?
Yes.
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 Yes, motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the review, transfer, signing of warrants, bills, payroll, and vouchers. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Lori, would you please pull the committee?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, meeting adjourned. Good night, everyone.